Good evening. Fasting is quite a big thing in the East and in the West, but maybe for different reasons. The most common reason is to lose weight, which is a very ordinary physical wish to have a better body. If I'm identified with my body as who I am, then that kind of fasting might be fairly important because I want to appear. This is the form again. And that tune, that, what can I call it? That mantra, Arunachala Shiva, that was playing at the beginning. They don't hear it. It's a Arunachala Shiva mantra that is very peculiar and common to Sri Ramana Maharshi's ashram. And Shiva, as most of you know, is part of the Hindu trilogy, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma being the creator, Vishnu the sustainer of life, and Shiva the destroyer. And as has been covered earlier, when we hear that, we've unfortunately, through the programming of words, when we hear the word destroyer, what comes forward in my mind is not at all what is implied in the Vedas. And for that reason, Shiva, for many, evokes a little bit of anxiety. But in the West, the creative aspect of the Trinity is quite enticing, because if I'm identifying with that aspect of my being, then it's nice to feel that I can create. But to go back to the definition of these 5 sheaths that the Vedas talk about that encase consciousness. 5 sheaths or kosha that veil, hide, encase, obscure pure consciousness. It's not a foreign concept, because if I look at the analogy of a drop and dropness, if I'm a raindrop and I'm falling, and all I'm aware of is my form, and I'm on pilgrimage with a whole lot of other pilgrims to go home to essence, and at the beginning of the journey, it is my form that I am aware of, I've identified with, and it constitutes who I am. So in the analogy of a drop, what constitutes dropness, if not the form of that which is encasing consciousness? To put that in different words, in the notion of ascending in truth in India, it's overcoming or resolving our identification with these 5 sheaths. As we identify with the sheath, we forget the essence that the sheath is covering. We fixated on the form, the sheath. And that droplet that's falling, It's a wonderful analogy. It has many aspects to it. It starts off quite small, like when you think of water evaporating from a lake or an ocean. It's a water vapor gas. It goes up, condenses into a tiny little hygroscopic particle, then collides with other hygroscopic particles, and it starts to form a tiny little drop. And the tiny little drop doesn't have much mass, so it tends to go down slowly. And in colliding with other drops, this is science, it gets to a bigger and a bigger drop until its mass can overcome any updraft, and it'll fall. And the pilgrimage has started. And we're all going home to Gaia or to Gangama or to the water, however you see it in your analogy. And there can be much enthusiasm on the journey until one has to surrender something. And one of the things that creates that ground rush is that that drop is about to lose something. And it gets anxious, or there's anxiety because of what is about to be lost. But what is about to be lost, is it truth or is it an illusion? What is about to be lost? Is it truth or is it an illusion? What is about to be lost as the drop is descending? What is about to be lost? The form or the essence? If it's the form, that ground rush is the fear of losing this form. Because it cannot have the extended vision of what it is that it will be gaining in the process. As it merges with the ocean, what is that if not awakening to what you are? The enormity of this ocean. And here I was holding on to my individuality, my sense of separation, my sense of form consciousness. And that sense of form is what identifies me. And it's not easy to give it up until I have tasted something that's beyond that. So if there is this identification with my form, then if there's anything that's about to threaten that, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Perception-wise. The perception is it can't be very good if it's going to destroy me, because I've identified with my dropness. Now that's quite silly actually when you look at it. Because I'm attached to the dropness, I'm unaware of the essence, which is water. And water in this case would represent consciousness. And its first sheath is a circular sheath. And you've got 5 sheaths that they refer to in the Vedas. 5 layers, 5 identifications, and each one needs to be awoken from, seen through, and then onto the next. So the first sheath, or the first awareness, is I am this body. And anything that can keep this body surviving must be a good thing. And that's Ananda, not Ananda. What is that first one again? Anna, not Ananda. Anna. Annamaya kosha. Annamaya kosha is that first primal sheath, and it is called the food sheath because it relates to the densest aspect of the bodies, the 5 sheaths that's encasing consciousness. And what we are all searching for in waking up is to be that unlimited consciousness. That is the root cause of my seeking. I have known, or I might have moments where I have been unaware of anything other than a unified field, might only last a few seconds. It's a moment of aha. It's a moment where you suddenly feel at home. You can't say why. So if it starts becoming very clear to me that this can't be what I am, because it has to pass away. But who was I before this body came? Is that consciousness that is veiled by association with forms. And the first form is the physical form, and it's aptly called the food sheath, because it's a byproduct of what we eat. But then there is the energy body, which they call pranayama kosha. The energy, the life force that sustains all forms. And then from that to mano maya kosha. Mana means mind, manas means mind. It's a thought body, a mental sheath. And mental sheaths can be quite busy. But let's keep it there for the moment because the topic is about words. And words clearly belong to mana, manas, mind, the mind or mental body. Words don't belong to the physical body. They don't belong to the causal body. They belong to the mental body or the mental sheath. And the mental sheath, the attachment thereto and the belief that I am that is what needs to be resolved and overcome in order to go deeper and more subtle into what I truly am. When we are entering a retreat or a fast, a retreat from life or a fasting, and I'm using it at the lowest level, the physical level, a food fast, I think all of us have heard of the benefits to the body-mind sense complex of a food fast. I mean, you can see any number of wonderful things it can do for the physical body. When it comes to a fast relating to words, here's the problem. It's easier for most to be on a food fast because how undisciplined the mind is than it can be on a mental fast or a word fast. That is the most difficult, but the most rewarding. Because if I can retreat from words, I've retreated from all forms. If the mind is just not landing in any words, then I'm not mesmerized by form. Because what is form? What is form? It's what the mind in the waking dream is conditioned to register. Form, not the essence. If I have a moment of clear seeing and I can't even explain where it came from, it can be an uplifting or an aha moment. And in that aha moment, if I had to look at it, it was very often either in the absence of thought, I was totally with and present in my environment, and you can't be totally present and alive in your environment while you're entertaining thoughts. Because then you've got one leg in the thought world and you've got one leg in the physical world. And when I'm busy with the thought, I'm in the mental body. And the mental body is quite a significant problem because of its hunger for more words and more words and more words. But every word is just a wrapping. Here there's a wrapping. It's potness is a wrapping. It's hiding its essence because most people can't see it. It's just too much in their face. But we've been trying to recognize the form, so we'll call it a pot. And it takes a little time before that association of mind with form starts weakening. And just think everything that that little child learns the name of, it's actually separating itself off from it. Before it's able to do that, it's abiding in the ocean. There's no boundaries, there's no separation. As Christ said, unless you become like that, it's difficult. So there are no boundaries. And then it enters the waking dream via its parents, because that's all they know is the waking dream. So they train it how to survive in the waking dream. And how you survive in the waking dream is to be a fellow dreamer. Then you're on the same page with everyone. And to be on that page, you have to forego your knowledge and your knowing of essence and replace it with form. Like, what is this? It's a dictation machine. What is this? It's a pot. What's this? It's a table. But there is no change. So when we use words, every word brings forward something different in everyone who hears the same word. The example given recently was the word spirits. That will bring forward different things in different people's experiential field. And what comes forward is a form. It's either a mental form, an emotional form, but it comes through and I become the effect of it. What happens if there were no forms? Well, that's not easy because every word in my language is associated with some kind of form. Physical form, subtle form, energetic form, but a form. And a word fast, there's nothing left to chew on. If there's no words, there can't be anything. In other words, there can't be any casings to that consciousness. Like dropness is a casing to the water. And if I take myself to be the drop and not the water, imagine what it would be like if I'm falling towards the ocean and I'm still clinging to my idea that I am this drop. We can understand there can be some terror. It's about to be lost. But what if I was descending knowing that I'm water? How is that going to feel going home? Would there be anxiety or just this huge longing to be one with that? So what is it about form that constitutes the adult condition which doesn't want to dissolve? If it's all I've ever known, And you can ask anybody, what is that? And they will all say it's the same thing, it's a ball. What's that? It's a pot. If that is the collective, then maybe that's why this planet is as this planet is. Because everyone will be seeing it in terms of their experiential field. Like hearing will be heard in their experiential field. Seeing will be only what is in their experiential field. If three people look at Kenny, they only see what's in their experiential field. You won't see and you can't see what's not in your experiential field. And you will always be aware of what is in your experiential field. And if anything does help to minimize the problem, it's to train the mind from jumping from thought to thought. And anyone who's watched the mind for a little while, you can be thinking of pomegranate. And then out of the blue, thought Billy comes in. Oh, Miss Phone Billy. And then just then another thought arrives. Newspaper. Now what's the connection between that, and that, if anything? If you look at how thoughts come and go in the mind, we have to say, now who's in control here? Where do these thoughts come from? And if these thoughts cannot be controlled, then I cannot come to that stillness that goes beyond words. I cannot go to that place that's beyond words, which is stillness. Thought and thinking both make use of the same thing, and that is words. And every word that's ever spoken has different meanings to different people. So how can you ever be on the same page? Really on the same page? Why is mantra repetition so big in the East? What do you think one of the main purposes of staying with the mantra is? Keeping the mind out of trouble. Because if you stay with the name or the mantra, if you stay with the mantra, there's no room that a stray thought can come in. And that is one of the main reasons why mantras are given, to train the mind into discipleship, into oneness, staying with one thing. If I was able to locate the master switch, to switch off the mind, would I be free? That's an unfair question. I'll take it back. Let me put it differently. Is it more easy to approach the truth of my being through words or through stillness? Then it becomes clear if it's put that way. Access to the consciousness that I am can't come housed in words. That precludes it right at the outset. That's why it said, if you're seeking enlightenment, it won't come. Because you've put it into a concept. You've put it into words. And you made a concept of that. And that was your first cut. And the first cut is the deepest. If I believe that the end of my journey requires me to, whatever that is, then as you believe, so it will be. And it will be true for you. But whether it'll take you to truth, that's something else. It can be true for you, but that doesn't mean to say it's taking you to truth. It's just real for you. It's just your current belief. And yes, there is an element of truth in that. As you believe, so it will be in your universe, not in anybody else's. So is that the truth? If I'm free in that universe, which is mine, or is it needing to be a tad faster than that? So Mauna is very much revered in old India, and I'm sure India today still. Mauna means silence. And in the West, that could be taken as verbal silence, but it's meant much more deeper than that. It's silence of not only your mind and your tongue, well, mostly your tongue and your mind. Your mind needs to be stilled. So to go on a food fast with an active mind is a good thing if you're interested in losing weight. If you're on a fast and you're thinking, still a good thing if you want to lose weight. But if it's a spiritual fast, because I'm so tired of this waking dream, I want to get these images out that I keep falling for. I just want stillness. I want to feel that intimate connection that I once felt as a little baby. What is that? The barrier to it is adult thought and thinking, which is nothing more than strings of words put together. And each word in that necklace has a different meaning. So is it necessary to have words? Yes, if I'm educating at a mental level, yes, that's what the student needs. But if I'm a spiritual seeker, is there not something beyond the words? And this now comes to the essence. And that essence doesn't have a form. So I remember with my teacher, the first memory of him was teaching us how to meditate. Just be with the warmth in your hands. Where's the form there? In other words, it was the first attempt to get the monkey to sober up, to actually start being in one place. Because who is ruling the roost? The head or the heart? Who's dishing up these different thoughts, these different beliefs, these different things to do? So the heart was at the head. If it's the head that's dishing up these things to do and these inspirations, and I follow them, then I'm locked onto form consciousness. If it's the feeling and not the form, that might be taking me closer to consciousness and further from form. So a word fast doesn't help me if by that I understand stop talking. Because if you tell somebody to stop talking, the whole conversation goes underground. You carry on this dialogue within you. It's just not expressed in decibels, but the internal noise is still there. So a word fast doesn't mean anything if you keep your lips closed. That's just at the most obvious formal level, not the essential level. What's the essence of this is that the mind must drop all words, whether they're read words, thought words, believed words, words in the waking dream of an adult is a huge jigsaw puzzle of form, not essence. It used to be. when I was a little child. When I was an adult, I got clever and I learned all about forms that mom and dad taught me. Bless their soul. But we have to remember they did the best they could with what they had. And you all know this from experience. The more words you need to use to get the other person to understand what you mean, the more tedious it is. If two people come together and with a minimum of words, you're already on the same page. Or you need screeds and screeds of words to try and get this one to understand who you are. But if there's no words, the other one has no inclination to talk. He's just quite okay in your company. I'm okay in that one's company. And if this unnatural prompting to continuously have to be sociable, we're trained to be sociable. We can't appear to be ignoring somebody. In all this conditioning, whose problem is it if they think I'm ignoring them? Whose life am I living? Whose truth am I living? Do I have to fit my reality into what they expect of me? Or do I see that what is required of me is to realize that the essence of my being is the same as the essence in every other being? Why look at the dropness in other and the dropness in me when both only have water? And the form consciousness is what we are living with. We are living in a form conscious world. When I say apple, somebody will see a green Granny Smith, somebody will see a red starling, whatever they call it. But who's tasting it? It's coming up as a form. The word apple is mentioned. A form comes up. There's no tasting the essence. So in a form conscious world, we are taught forms. We need them to navigate. They are essential, but they belong to Rome, not home. To find your way home, I need to be quiet. Not just acoustically, but words in general. I catch myself with the thought, it's just a thought, a mental image picture, and a word and a form, all the same thing. So, been there, that works. Sometimes an outer act is necessary to help you with an inner act. This thought comes, blah, and it will go. If it comes back, you again. It's not necessary. You are the problem. Now, you're also the solution. The problem is your capacity for words, which is an endless capacity. In the East, they say you can't teach a hungry man how to meditate. In the West, the solution is a bit more dramatic, because in the East, all you have to do is put some porridge in front of him. And once he's had some porridge, now you can teach him how to meditate. Can't teach a hungry man how to meditate. What it's trying to say is feed the food sheath first. And when that's content, then maybe the mental sheath is approachable. Now, what was I saying just before that? I was leading up to something. can't remember, it'll come back to me. So coming back to how to make sense of this in the daily round is gradually one starts to see that when we are feeling a little out of a real comfort zone, not comfort zone, the word to use, words of the as you can see, we've got lots of words for form, but not many words for essence. So comfort zone, that's got a horrible connotation to it. A homeless home. Homeless. A feeling of eventually, here I am. Let the world go by. Now you can let the world go by from Thomas. Let the world go. Or you can let the world go by through Sattva. Rajas is really in the world. It's got to do things. It's got to be a doer. It's got to resolve that. The karta needs to be exercised as long as I believe that I am the karta, the doer. But when I start to feel that there might be a greater hand in this amazing cosmos, that maybe I'm not calling the shots, maybe, just maybe, I'm not calling the shots. It was very clear to Einstein, very clear to Ramana Maharshi. There is no such thing as free will. So who or what is calling the shots? Look at Bhagavan's assertion, and Einstein's assertion, greatest intellect in the West, and one of the most revered mystics in the East, same page. There is no such thing as free will. Very hard to understand, very hard to swallow for the mind. There's a little child had that problem. Was it living in that seamless reality before words? And this little light of this little child hasn't associated words with forms yet. It's got limitless energy and it's enthusiastic, very often laughing, wanting to explore. And then it's taught how to navigate the waking dream. You have to get used to words. And then the game starts. How quickly can you assimilate the names of all these substances with words? And then later we forget about the substance. We've got the words. Bring it on. I know the words. I know the form. And if I go on a fast, a physical fast, that's one thing. If I go on a mental or a spiritual fast, it's normally got a higher motive. And the motive in a spiritual fast is obviously to move away from the physical, to move away from the mental, to approach another aspect of my being, which is closer to water than it is to dropness. So the bottom line in a word retreat, I never call them a word retreat. I told you what we did on several occasions on retreat. There would be those that were really keen to seek inwardly, and there were those who were still looking externally for solutions, which are called explorers. And you can talk as much as you want. Those of you who've been around a bit will remember this. Going on a retreat in a different venue, there would always be the suggestion at a tea time, can you just sit with what came to you? As well as your cup of tea. Can you sit with what came to you? Or do you lose yourself in the social custom of drinking tea and chatting? Now we've come on a retreat to get away from that. I understand it's difficult for you to get away. Some of you still have this incredible urge to socialize over a cup of tea. It's not bad, but we're talking about a retreat now. And you could, well, I tried several times, but it didn't work. There were some people who just were compulsive talkers. That's when that yellow thing came up. I think you remember that yellow thing. Hmm? Did I mention that in the script? Yeah. Okay. Those who want to be left in peace, there's your yellow band. If you can't control your tongue, don't approach a yellow band person. He's not on your page. He's gone beyond. I didn't say it like that. I was hoping that they would get the message. And some did get the message. The next retreat, I said, no bands from me. So the realization that talking on a retreat, it's nice and it's social, and especially when it's new people, you get to know each other. But after that, you have to ask, why am I on a retreat? What are you retreating from? If only you knew the most important retreat there is. It's a retreat from words. Because that is what's causing everything. The words lead to thoughts. As you think, so it is. As you think, so you believe. As you believe, so it is. All of these are saying the same thing about your personal world. What is holding it together is an ocean of thoughts. Until the mind goes quiet. And when the mind goes quiet, that is when you get up from meditation and you can't believe. It seems like 5 minutes. If you've had one of those experiences and time just went, you can have another day and time doesn't fly at all. And we have to ask why. And I'm hoping somebody would get it by now. If one is freed of thoughts, or if one is thinking, am I free of thoughts? And if I am, don't have a panic attack. Because I'm so used to having thoughts. You'd never have a panic attack because that kind of thought freeness is so special. You can't actually, can never, ever do anything but lift you up. And I must say, it's quite difficult for me when somebody at the shop or supermarket or servicing company or wherever you are starts giving you this detailed explanation as if you know nothing. You're not interested in whether it's this bit and that bit and this comes together, but at the same time you have to be attentive because you need to honor where he is. So you nod at the appropriate time, but you just wish you could actually come to an end, you know? I don't know if any of you have had that experience. Somebody starts on a roll and you're either edging to put in your own sixpence worth on the table or you actually had enough. It's too many words. So too many words is just as problematic as too few words. In the teaching mode, there has to be words. Any teaching, kindergarten teaching, geography teaching, there has to be words. Because that is where we function, unfortunately. So those who've heard of these types before, like Kenny, when you think of Kenny, 3 people thinking of Kenny will produce 3 different things in their bodies. 3 different realities will come. But if all forms had to quieten down, there would be no boundaries. The only difference between that form and this form is that one is contained in a boundary. This one is contained in a boundary. So each form has a boundary. The pot is a boundary. Clay doesn't have a boundary. Wood, not wooden desk. Wood doesn't have a boundary. But the minute you put a label on it, you have brought it into a form, and now you are stuck with form consciousness. And this is, if anything, what Shiva would like to destroy. That's all that has to be destroyed in order for me to be essence, to be consciousness. In fact, it's often a yardstick. The more words a person uses, almost means the more unconscious they are. And the fewer words, it's indicating something different. And when somebody goes on and on and on and on and on explaining to you, you can be overrun with words. So what is a common denominator with practices given by teachers in the West and East of being with a mantra or giving them some japa, some spiritual practice, if not to control the mind? And why control the mind? It's to control thoughts. And what are thoughts? They're words. You can put a word or a series of words. But if you drop words, if you could drop words, but to drop them, I first have to be aware of them as being the problem. Spirit. I'll say that word. None of you will be on the same page. Because you're an alcoholic, you're a theologist, you won't be on the same page. So what the hell are we doing with words? It's nice for conversing in the waking dream, but it doesn't help me for achieving the goal of why I'm here. I'm squandering my time with distractions. What is the truth, knowing which everything is as though known, to quote one of the Vedic Mahavakyas. What is that truth, knowing which everything is as though known? It's the knowledge of water, not dropness. It's the knowledge of clay, not potness. So there are various ways that one could be in the daily life. You could be standing in front of something, and even if you don't quite believe it yet, you can say, this is not a box. But don't say it loud because somebody might hear you and report you. You can't look at a tree and say, this is not a tree. You know, if you say that too often, too many people hear you. They'll ask you, what drugs are you taking? We've named it pot, table. That's the problem. That is what we've brought into, is forms. And Shiva comes as the destroyer of what? Not the essential or that which is true, but that which is not true. Think of all of these koshas, these 5 koshas. Annamaya kosha, food sheath. Look at the words. Maya, they all have Maya in them. You know what Maya means? Okay, it means illusion. Okay, here, potness is Maya. This is not a pot. Pot is Maya. There is no such thing as pot here. Anywhere, in fact. In one case it'll be clay, in one case it'll be steel, in one case it'll be stainless steel, in one case it'll be Teflon covered steel, but they are all not what is. And that is why we are in a waking dream. We are bowing to form and not being aware of essence. It's as simple as that. So if I stand in front of a tree or a bush or a shrub and I really see these tiny little leaves coming out, such beautiful colors, perfectly every time. It's just too amazing. When Einstein said you can live your life as though nothing is a miracle, you are living in form consciousness because everything is dead. Or he said you can live your life as though everything is a miracle because you're seeing it with fresh eyes. It's not what form consciousness education. It's even called formal education. It's not called essential education. It's because we're preoccupied with form. And gravity has an effect on human form. Doesn't affect the essence. But when I have to do something about the form, it's telling me that I'm not essence conscious. I'm aware of my form. And it's absolutely normal. When abnormality is taken to be normal, that's called the waking dream. If anybody wants to say something or disagree, please. If you are visiting or at a place which touches you, wherever that or however that is for you, when you really feel more expanded, more relaxed, more at home within yourself, it's a wonderful time to be aware of the fact that this is so nice because I'm not being distracted. I'm here and it's quiet. And we used to refer to that as being in background consciousness. If you just stop on the beachfront and open one of your windows, you will hear the ocean talking to you. And if there's no beggars in the road, you'll be quiet too. And this vastness of the sea with these two embracing arms can touch you in a way, and you can hear it, and you can feel, this is quite something. Know that what is happening is you letting go of forms. It's a sensing of the essence of this ocean, the essence of the mountains. But if I'm landing from one thought to the next, you will not feel the same. So when you are sitting there in your car, and the last thing you can do is to think of talking, because I'm so here, it's because there are no words. And maybe this is why you might have a different reaction when somebody comes knocking on your window with a cup. It brings you right back to what you were enjoying so much being free of. It brings you back to form. him and me, and whereas you came down hoping that you would just be undisturbed, that your mind would be quiet. Because when your mind is quiet, we know that that is bringing a very different kind of feel when the mind is quiet. And it often takes something that is amazingly beautiful for me. And if you suddenly see amazing beauty, what is the action that follows? Do you suddenly start talking, or do you open your mouth and be quiet? And if it's one of those moments, there are no words. That's why your mouth is hanging. There are no words. There's no form there. And if there's no form, what is that I'm experiencing? If there is no form, what am I actually becoming aware of without realizing it? Is that maybe my true nature doesn't have the limitations imposed by form. Who would I be if I had this amazing inner stillness and it was not associated with anything or anyone? It was just I. So is there an ongoing series of words that's entering my mind? If it is, you will not be with the sea, you will be with you. You can't be with both. To be fully with the sea, you have to be able to let go of me. Or putting it the other way around, if I could let go of me, I would be able to be with the sea. But not while I'm thinking. Yes, if you're looking at that sea and it brings up a word, a wonderful association of something else relating to water, okay, that's not too bad. But let's realize that it's still words. And at some point, cannot just be without knowing, without understanding, but just open. If there's no words and I'm fully here, maybe that one doesn't need any words in the moment. And somebody could come in and maybe be in the same space. Or one defaults to the social animal that we are trained to realize is a good thing. So there's always two sides to everything. And it's nice to see sometimes what's on the other side. I don't know how each of your experiential fields are loaded, but if you could be with a person or an animal in a way that was free momentarily of mind, free momentarily of any thoughts and thinking, do you think that animal or tree or human would sense it at some level? Most definitely it would. Look at all the photographs of Bhagavan with animals, squirrels, cows, beetles. They all felt absolutely at home because they were not seen as forms, they were not seen as separate. And as you see, so it is. So you can either look, which is a stream of words, or you can see. by just being quiet. And maybe it's a two-way thing. When I am noisy and lots of thoughts and I'm laughing, that'll have a very different reaction on an animal or a bird or a human than if I'm quietly open and there's no thoughts running at the moment. And which one is the one that will attract the animals, the birds, the butterflies, the dogs? And which state is it that they don't know and therefore are afraid of? The humans have this habit of using forms. And it's mental energy. And they don't have that. To them, it's a very strange thing, mental energy. And to many dogs, if you laugh and smile, they'll even bark at you because you are showing your teeth when you laugh. And of course, showing your teeth to an animal, that means game's on. You know? I remember in India, on 2 occasions, smiling, and I said, "Stop smiling! Can't you see what it's doing to the dog?" And I realized it was teeth. So if I am standing in front, I said it's not 2 ways. It's not one way, it's 2 ways. If I'm standing in front of a tree or a shrub and I go quiet, preferably before I go out to look at the shrub, it's maybe after some sitting still or standing in front of this tree, this shrub, and you look at the perfection in each of those leaves, and then you can reflect mildly. Where did that leaf draw its food from and its sustenance? Why is it so perfect? Because in the same flower bed, there's other things. They're drawing from the same food, but they're coming up with unique personalities, different colors, different flavors, all drawn from the same thing. So it's the same as drop and dropness. All of these small drops, big drops, hazy drops, all seem to be different, but they all are the same thing. And the beauty would be for the drop falling towards the ocean. When it gets rattled, it's about to lose something. Can I be bold enough to say, well, take it, kill it, so that I can be pure water? Shiva, Shiva, come and destroy it, kill it. Kill what? Let's kill the form. Because behind the form is what is essential. So if I'm looking at the formal characteristics of somebody, it's different to seeing the soul or energetic or heart characteristics of the same person. If I'm looking through words, which are thought forms, then I'm seeing in front of me all the form aspects of that person. And they don't correlate with the form aspects of this person because it is formal thinking. But if there's no thinking, it implies there's no words. Or if there's no words, it implies there's no thinking. But can I approach it consciously? Can I walk up to that bush, that rosebud, and just be quietly for a moment? It's not a rosebud I'm looking at. Nor is the one looking at it a humanoid. I'm trapped consciousness. When I depart, what departs? Consciousness or the body? What goes? What leaves? Body is left behind, served its purpose, like an old coat. It's the mass, it's the form. What continues is the essential, that which I ever am and always have been. not limited by form. When I limit it to form and I've identified with form, then whatever happens to the form is happening to me. And that is ground rush. When the drop falls and I'm identified with my dropness, I get terrified. Because all I've known up till now is my dropness. And now Shiva's asking me, please, let's kill that now. You mercifully merge with the ocean. And after you've merged with the ocean, is there any boundary? There's no boundary. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's just this. And what is this? It's not just this, and it's not that. It's some very special this, capital T. What is that knowledge, knowing which everything is as though known? What is that? What is this? What is this? What's holding me back from a realization of that is my form consciousness. So I can start getting used to a different kind of thinking. I pick up a fork in the morning. Oh, what is this? It's a fork. No, it's not a fork. What is this? Oh, yes, it's steel. And you can go on with anything in your daily life. What is this? It's just challenging the mind to give up what it knows, and that is its name and its form. Namarupa. Giving up its name and its form. Because that is the only entrance to Swarupa, the true essence. So you pick up a breadboard. Patrick, it's not a breadboard. How many times? You have to remind yourself. And it will come. It's not a breadboard. It's beautiful, sapele mahogany, or whatever your word is. It's wood. That starts the ball rolling to make me realize how my whole universe is form driven and how conscious I am of form. Why am I standing in front of a mirror in the morning? Is it for my form or my essence? Well, it's self-evident. We trained like that. We've got no other way until we start to develop a different way of seeing things. And you all thought this was a shirt. Me too, at one stage. So now I have to look at the label to see what it is. Nothing is what it appears to be. What appears to be is none other than the waking dream. What is awakening to truth. That's it in a nutshell. And all because of form. And what makes form stick are what we've been trained with, and that is words. So if I were on a word fast, it leaves all of the formal stuff behind. It means catching myself each time I'm about to land out of bread. This is wood. Feel it. Feel it. It's the weight of wood. There's no breadboard here. You see how the training goes so much against it. It's only in the beginning I can use that just to get my foot in the door. Oh, that's a dog. Is it a soul behind that dog? Is dog the form or the essence? It's a form. Oh, that's a canary. It's a form. You stand in front of it and say, you are not a canary. He said, yes, that's getting closer. And it's like he was there again yesterday morning. It was about 4 inches long. making a beautiful silver highway wherever he's been on the carpet under my desk. And somebody, it was my daughter, she said, come and look from this angle at the desk, at the carpet. That is the perfect shape of Africa that snail has written you. And I hadn't seen it from that angle. But that was in her boot. She's only recognizing what's in her. I'm recognizing what's in me. We're both looking at a silvery trace on the floor that is meaning different things to different people. That's why we can begin to think we're on the same page, but actually the rishis have deliberately remained silent. Those who speak do not know, and those who speak do not know, and those who don't speak do know. Because they've realized that in speaking, you use a strain of words. Everyone is perceived differently by the one who hears it. Like spirits. You hear it, each one, differently according to your universe. And then when you're agreeing, are you agreeing on the same thing? When the heads are going like this, are you agreeing on the same thing? I wonder. Verbally expressed, you might say, yes, it's got mada, wada, wada, wada. But essentially, is that really what the heart is wanting or needing? So we can have lots of words, or on realizing that words are nothing other than forms. Then if a person is at a very low level of consciousness, in other words, fully form conscious, we know that we have to use lots of words to get something across. And if we sense somebody is on a higher form, we know that they need less words to get the same message across, until there's no need for any words, because there is no form consciousness. What would that be if there was no pot, no table, no bed, no chair? What remains? What remains? What remains? That has no form. Common to everybody. That's ocean. That's ocean. Where's the drop? What drops? I don't know what you're talking about. Hmm? What are you talking about? So if I do cultivate that habit, I pick this up. I know what I'm picking up. I'm picking up a cup. No, you're not picking up a cup. Go back a few seconds and say, what is this? Yes, the tribe has labeled it as the form, cup. That is not a cup. I know it might sound a bit mechanical in the beginning, but it can become a permanent feature where after a while you just start laughing. You just look at something and you start laughing. You're starting to sense there's very little, if no boundaries between you. So what can name you? When you're really close and it's part of you, is there any name and form that's needed? And that might be one reason why intercourse can be used to turn the mind off. Because if in that moment, I think you can all recall, there's very little thinking there. And it's quite an aphrodisiac to return to that, but it might not be the sex that's pulling me back. It might be the sex and the sudden cessation of thinking, thought, and whatever has been moving me. It's gone momentarily. And there's quite a relief in that. And it might not be due to sex alone. It might have something to do with thought, thinking, and this narrowness of the self that I imagine myself to be through form consciousness. I imagine myself to be this form conscious person. Who am I? That's Bhagavan's famous question. Who am I? In the beginning, I see myself as this smartly dressed young female. That's who I am. And what is that form or essence? It's nearly always entirely form conscious. Because what you find attractive is not what he finds attractive, etc., etc. But according to your universe, that is so. You've believed it into, that's what it is. If I'm able to, now in later years, realize that as a human being, I am predominantly, largely, let's use the word largely, it's more safer. It's largely a form that I'm conscious of and not so much the essence. The form of the person is not the same as the essence of the person. The form might be one thing, the essence might be quite something else. Might be a beautiful form, but there's no essence inside. She's just murdered somebody, but she's got a sweet smile. So you fall for the sweet smile. But the essence is gone. It's not there. So if I'm to cultivate that habit of whatever you're looking at, it's not what it is. That is the lie. Shiva is here to remove form consciousness. You are essence. And if you are essence, are you the drop or the ocean? If you're essence. What's with Shiva's wrong is to cut dropness out. Kill dropness. You are not that. What is left? It's the ocean. But you can't say it because there's no more words left. But the experience is one of freedom. And yet when it gets too deep, too quickly, there's the sudden want to get distracted through ground rush. I'm about to lose something, that's all I know, and that's my persona. And I get this ground rush, and I say, let's just, there must be other ways, or I think of, and I get all sorts of cleverness. And that's ground rush. If I were to just sit through that pain, whatever it causes, it might be difficult the first time. That if I manage to go through it, when you've been through it once, it's much easier moving through it the second time. And then more and more, it's a bit easier to understand what I'm suggesting. That's not what it appears to be. Nothing ever is in the waking dream than what you make of it. One man's meat is another man's poison. Two people have the same food. One brings forward this, one brings forward that. And that determines if it's nice or it's not nice. So my whole universe is based on my form consciousness? Can I just take little by little? It's not a flower. This was one thing that Swami did in India. The Swami wrote Dayananda Saraswati. Somebody presented some beautiful roses that were sitting next to him. So he said, I don't normally do this, but I feel I have to do it for the sake of this lesson. He was talking to the form conscious people, because if that rose has been cut, isn't it already dead? He takes this out, he nicks the rose off, puts the stem back. It's already dead, according to the way people think. And then he took one petal off and he said, what is this? And everybody would say petal. And what is this? Another petal. It's another petal. And what is this? It's a petal. And what is this? It's a part of the stamen. Okay? And it's a part of the, whatever they call them, pollen catchers. And then he's finished now. There's no rose left in his hand, but it's all sitting here in a pile. And he would now say, is this a rose? What's the answer? 5 minutes ago it was. Now? Is it still a rose? We'll see if you can sell it at Woolworths. Society wouldn't have much value for it. What existed before is not the same as what existed after, although the material form was the same. The form. But in the first case, it was intelligently put together. By whom? Was there some leaf or branch on that tree who was the tutor? Something in the rose bush that was the tutor that had to teach them how to form a rose? After all, it was intelligently put together. What is the seat of that intelligence? Would you find it in dropness or ocean? I think it's clear it's more likely to be in that which has no form. That's a new dimension of looking at a shrub. Not only it's not what it appears to be, but it has been intelligently put together so differently to another plant in the same ground. But the same intelligence is like many different drops falling after traveling across the Atlantic, others crossing Lake Geneva, all different droplets. But the essence is not two, it's one. And maybe that is also the essence of human beings. You are not that form. In the waking dream, you are that form. In the waking dream, you are that form. But if somebody had to say you are not that form, you might even get offended. Because I'm identifying with that form. Then it's time to invoke Shiva, the destroyer. Or the favorite in the East is Kali. Kali. You know Kali? She chops your head off. And you've seen her holding a skull with a bleeding head. Kali. What is she holding up there? The problem. You've been liberated. In other words, stop thought and thinking, and you'll achieve the same state. You won't have a head, a thinking, calculating mind. During that short interval of time that I am without formally using words, thinking words, words are silent in me, even if it's only for 10 seconds. Let's just start somewhere. It's not a leaf. It's not a fly. And then don't get analytical after that. Just say that, that's enough. And just be with what's in front of you. And it will come to you. You heard of that expression, it came to me? It came to me. I didn't have to go to it. And what is a cognition? Ah, it came to me. It came to me. Me, the person. And what's it and what's me? It might be that infinite intelligence, and it came into this little drop here to illuminate. So also we're going to end on this note now, but in my early training, not training, my association with our Methodist minister, he had a new rendition of the Lord's Prayer, but with a lot more feeling in it, because the old version of the Lord's Prayer is made up of strings of words, like anything in sentences. It's made up of words. And every word will have a different meaning for different people. So if everything has a different meaning for different people, how do we ever get on the same page? It's through leaving the old forms behind and looking at things freshly, differently. Is this? And then maybe that's the beginning of the start of dropping other forms gradually. Something there? Okay, is there anything? Okay. All right, I think we should call it a day now. So just to spend 2 or 3 minutes dropping all forms, thoughts, beliefs, and not expecting anything in return. identifies. Diwali or Deepavali, ceremony of lights, as opposed to darkness. And there's something there from Deepavali. You're all welcome to take one before you go, one or two or three. Just given by a student. And when you put it in your mouth, can you be, just for a few seconds, in remembrance of the One, however that is to you. Just, thank you. Just be with the One. Whatever that is to you. Because that will be outside of form consciousness. There's gratitude, taste, thank you. You moved out of form. And it's getting well. So that was an excuse. That a beautiful excuse. You put that in your mouth. So thank you. And that's what happens in India. You have something from the altar, put it in your mouth. You have Bhagavan in consciousness. Or the wafer of Jesus Christ at communion.